And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to make a creamy chicken fettuccine, pasta fettuccine. Then we're going to make asparagus supreme and a spinach and strawberry salad to go alongside. We're going to get started actually on the asparagus because that needs to go into the oven. And I have got here just one bunch of beautiful asparagus. This is one of my favorite treats when it's in season. A lot of people will say to hold your asparagus and then bend it, and where it breaks is the tender spot, but I personally think that wastes a lot of it. And so what I do is I wash it and then I kind of line them up like little soldiers, and I cut off, make sure the bottom ends. You can also do it this way. Just get the bottom ends, roughly the same, and then I just cut off about 2 inches. Now you can save this for stock if you want, but what the difference is the bottom, as you can see here, gets dried out and it gets really woody and tough and very, very fibrous, and that part is not very good. But everything else from top to bottom is edible and delicious. So you want to have a shallow baking dish that your asparagus can lay in almost one layer. It's okay if it overlaps just a little bit. And then set that to the side, and we are going to make a topping to go over that. I'm actually going to drizzle it with just a little tiny bit of olive oil, not a lot, but a little bit. In here I have about half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. You can use regular breadcrumbs if you want to. I just didn't have any plain breadcrumbs. I just am using panko. If you don't even have breadcrumbs, you can just take a couple of pieces of bread and pulse it up in your food processor to make fresh breadcrumbs would be fine. To that, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. I'm going to add some onion. I'm going to use green onions, but if you don't have green onions, you can use just a little bit of a yellow onion. You want a couple of tablespoons of pretty finely minced onion. Get back here, you. Asparagus, when I start seeing fresh in-season asparagus in the store, I know spring is coming. It is very much a sign of spring to me. Come here, little onion. I'm going to chop this up just a little bit more. Green onion has a very mild flavor, so, it's not as potent as, say, a yellow onion or even a white onion. I just had 3 or 4 stalks of green onion. I've got 1 piece of celery here. You don't have to put the onion and the celery in this recipe if you don't have it, but it does add a little bit of a texture difference. And I'm going to cut it roughly the same size as the green onion. Just a couple of tablespoons is all. This asparagus is the star of the dish. Add that to your breadcrumbs. Mix that all together with some salt, about a tablespoon or so, and some freshly ground pepper, just a little bit. Mix all that together. And you can put this over top. Now, I like to leave the tops uncovered because they're so pretty. So I just scatter this on the stem portion of the asparagus. Use it all. This is kind of like a gratin type dish. And then 1 stick of butter that you have melted, and just drizzle that over top of the breadcrumbs. Now what will happen is the butter will help those breadcrumbs to brown and the onion and the celery to soften. Then you're going to put that, let me get that little piece there. You're going to put it in a 375 degree oven about 30 minutes or so until the topping is brown, the celery and the onion are cooked, and the asparagus has roasted through. So we're just going to put that in there for a few minutes. While that's cooking, I'm going to start on the pasta primavera. Now here I have a pot of boiling water, and I'm going to add some kosher salt, a couple of big spoonsful, because you want the water to be like seawater, salty water, to cook our pasta in. Don't add your salt till your water comes up to a boil. And I have here 1 box, which is 1 pound, of fettuccine. Fettuccine is let me show you here, it's a flat noodle. It's not round like spaghetti, it's just a wider, flat noodle, just like that. I like to break mine, so I break it in half before I put it in the water. And it takes it about, this is a thicker noodle, so it takes it about 10 minutes or so to cook through. And we're going to make a delicious creamy sauce to go on it. Now I'm going to add some chicken, but you don't have to. But it's a great use for leftover chicken. Oh. Break that, put it in there, bring it back up to a boil, and don't put the lid on once you bring your pasta up to a boil. Don't put your lid back on there. All right, take your tongs or spoon or something and kind of stir that around to separate the noodles. That's how you keep it from clumping together. If you ever have a problem with your pasta clumping, then it's one of 2 things, and probably a combination. You don't have enough water. This has to have enough water to cook freely. You can't cook pasta in a small pot if you're cooking a whole big pound and expect it not to stick together. It's got to have room to move. But if you'll take the time in the beginning to just stir it around a little bit, and then every 5 minutes or so into it, stir it again, it won't clump together. Don't add oil to your water. I know a lot of people drop some oil into the water when they boil it. Oil and water don't mix, and all that will happen is the oil will coat the pasta and your sauce won't stick to it, because you want that starchy coating on the outside of your pasta so that the sauce will stick to it. So avoid putting any kind of water ever in your pasta to cook it. I'm going to take a quick break, clean up. When I come back, we're going to start on the sauce to go with the fettuccine. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Alrighty, now let's get started on the pasta dish. Now we put our fettuccine in the water, and I've got some broccoli florets that I'm going to actually add to the pasta water about 4 or 5 minutes before this is done. I've got a red pepper here that I'm going to cut up, and I'm actually going to saute this a little bit in the pot that we're going to make the sauce in. Primavera means you've got some vegetables and things in it, and it's really good. And it's up to you, whatever you want to add to it is fine. I'm going to add some red pepper, some shredded carrots, some onion, and some broccoli. But if you've got yellow squash or zucchini, add it. You can add any vegetable that you want to add to this dish. I'm going to just dice up my pepper. I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable oil, just maybe 2 teaspoons or so to my pot. And I'm going to dice up my pepper kind of small, maybe 1/2 inch pieces. Doesn't have to be perfect, but get them as even as you can. That way they cook. I don't want to brown them, I just want to soften them, so I'm going to go ahead and add them to the pot as I cut. I love pasta primavera. Love it. It's one of my favorite things. And sometimes I use fettuccine. If you don't have fettuccine, you could use ziti or rigatonis or any kind of penne. You could use really any kind of pasta shape that you want. Bow tie pasta is especially pretty in that you could use bow tie pasta and maybe some spring peas, and oh, that would be so pretty. Let's stir that and see where we are. If we need to add our broccoli florets to it, let's see where we are. No. Let me give that about another minute, and then I will add the broccoli to that. I'm just going to steam the broccoli. You could also add it to the pot if you wanted to, but I like the broccoli to be just kind of steamed. I've got here just some spring onions that I'm going to chop up. Green onions, spring onions, scallions. I'm going to use mostly the white and some of the green. Not all the green, but some of it. Just gonna. Boy, these things are just rolling today. Come on, you stay on the board. 4 or 5 spring onions. And I'll go ahead and add them to the pot. Let them be cooking through. And again, you can add any kind of vegetable that you want to add to this dish. Just let that kind of go. Then I've got some shredded carrots that I'm going to add in the last minute or so. These are going to cook very, very quickly. So we're just going to saute those for about another minute or so. Then we'll take them out of there and build our sauce. Now I'm going to use some leftover chicken in this dish. You do not have to add chicken, or you could use leftover turkey. You could do this completely vegetarian by leaving out the meat. But I have some chicken here, and if you have leftover chicken, it's a great use for it. Just cut it into, bite-sized pieces and set it to the side, and you can add it to the dish at the end and just warm it through. But again, if you wanted to leave it out, you could and make it vegetarian. We were cooking one night, or we had a guest, it's been several years ago, a Jewish rabbi, Orthodox Jewish rabbi friend of ours, was coming to our home for dinner, and I'm not Jewish, so I was like, but I wanted to honor his dietary restrictions, so I did some research and found out what I could cook that was kosher, and this is actually the dish that I made for him with all kosher ingredients. It was really kind of cool. I'm going to add the broccoli to the pot. I added lots of vegetables, and it was delicious. I'm going to add the broccoli, and there's a great way to steam up your broccoli with your pasta. Give that about 3 or 4 minutes, and then that broccoli will be, tender, but not mushy. I don't like mushy broccoli. Gonna let this go for just a second, and then we're gonna build our sauce. Just until those are tender. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper and garlic powder. I don't want the bite of the garlic. I want the flavor, but I don't want that harsh bite that sometimes raw garlic can give you, so I'm going to use garlic powder. And it works out great. I'm going to give these just a minute more. And then we will take those out of the pan and build our sauce. Let's check on this. Okay, that's going. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm just going to let this simmer for a minute. I'm going to take these vegetables out of the pot, and when I come back, we'll finish up the sauce and we'll make the salad and the dressing, and our asparagus should be done. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now all I did was add the carrots to the vegetable mixture and saute it for about 1 minute and just removed them from the pot. Keep those to the side. In this same pot, I am going to add some milk, a couple of cups of milk. You can use half and half or heavy cream. I'm using 2% milk. I'm also going to add 1 block of cream cheese that I'm going to, it's softened, and what I'm doing is I'm just taking a knife, you could take a spoon, and kind of making it into smaller pieces so it'll melt easier, because that's what we're going to do is melt this. It's really good. This adds richness and thickness and so good. Let me add that. Let me use this. I think that'd be easier. This will melt into the milk, and it's going to be the basis of our sauce. It's really good. I'll switch to a whisk here in just a second. Our broccoli and our fettuccine are done, so all I did was just turn that off. I'm going to take it out of there in just a second and drain it. Okay, well, let me see if I can get that last little bit out of there. Don't want to waste that cream cheese. I love cream cheese. And this is the 1/3 less fat cream cheese. Don't use the fat-free. I don't like that. I just think it has got a weird taste. But I do like the 1/3 less fat cream cheese. So we're going to take a whisk, and we're just going to, this is like on medium heat. We're just going to whisk this and let that cream cheese dissolve and melt into the sauce. Then we're going to add our chicken and our vegetables and our pasta. Whenever you drain your pasta, make sure that you always reserve, a cup or so, half a cup to a cup of the pasta water, because it has a lot of starch in it, and that will help to thicken up your sauce. Now, this is not a real thick, creamy sauce like an Alfredo. It's not as thick as an Alfredo. It's a much lighter sauce. That's why it's perfect for like a light supper. Now, you see how that cream cheese has just melted into that, and it has become a lot thicker. It's exactly what you want. I'm going to add my chicken to the pot because that needs to warm through. I'm going to add my vegetables back into the pot and stir those in. And let all that warm through. Then I'm going to add, I've got some Parmesan cheese here. I'm going to add about half of this. This is around a cup. I'm going to add about half, and I'm just going to reserve some for the top. And that cheese is also going to help. It's going to melt and help thicken up that sauce a little bit too. Look how pretty that looks. Oh, it's so good. Now, I'm going to drain this. Now, I like this pot because all I have to do is lift that out of there. Let that drain for just a second. I'm going to put this into that and just let it cook through for about 3 or 4 minutes, and you're done. It's really an easy dish. Okay? It's okay if there's a little tiny bit of water. And I'm going to add that to the pot. Get the rest of those noodles out of there that like to stick to the little holes in this. That's a great way to cook that broccoli if you've never done that. Just adding it to the pasta. Stir that together, turn it down to low, that's done. Just want to let it warm that chicken through, or turkey if you're using turkey, whatever you've added to it. It's really good. Really good. And it's beautiful. Look at that pretty dish. Now let's just turn that down to low. Put the wrong lid on it. Put the lid on it and let it stay warm while we finish our spinach salad. Now we're going to make a dressing to go on top of the spinach. Kind of a poppy seed dressing. Let me get these in the sink. I have here just a container of, and I like the organic baby spinach. And this is just baby spinach, that's all it is. And I've got here some beautiful strawberries that we are going to, I'm actually going to turn over my board because I cut those onions on there. It's one little trick you can do is just turn over your board and then wash it when you're done. And I've got some beautiful strawberries. A little hint for you for strawberries is if it doesn't smell like a strawberry out of that container, it is not going to taste like a strawberry. So I always smell my strawberries in the store, because if it doesn't smell, it's not going to taste. Same with peaches. A lot of your fruits, obviously you can't smell them, but peaches and strawberries in particular, if it doesn't smell like it, it's not going to taste like it. And I can't wait for peach season. I absolutely adore peaches. And you could add some cantaloupe to this if you wanted to, or some blueberries, any other kind of fruit you wanted, some nuts. You could add some craisins. It's totally up to you. I'm just going for the more traditional strawberries. And we're going to make our dressing. Oh, these smell so good. These are out of Florida. And they are fresh, and they are ripe, and they are delicious. When strawberries are in season, I eat them all the time. I absolutely love them. Strawberry shortcake's one of my favorites. Just love to make strawberry shortcakes, and I eat that for breakfast sometimes when they're fresh and they're good. Not a big breakfast eater, but that I do. I like to have some fruit. And we'll chop up the rest of those in just a minute. Let's get the dressing going. Now I'm making kind of a take on the traditional poppy seed dressing. But I personally, a lot of those dressings have got onion in it, raw onion and Worcestershire. I'm not a big fan of those flavors, so I'm leaving it out of mine. But if you want to put a little bit of Worcestershire and chopped up onion, you can. I've got some sugar. I've got some olive oil, and I'm using white balsamic vinegar because I don't have any raspberry vinegar. But if you have raspberry vinegar, it's really good in this. I'm going to add some poppy seed, a little bit of paprika for a little bit of flavor, and some toasted sesame seeds. I'm going to reserve some to sprinkle over top. And you can either whisk this or you can use a little blender like I'm going to do. I've got some sliced almonds here. I'm going to add some of those, and I'm going to put the rest of them on the top. I'm going to use my little immersion blender. I really like this thing. It's just perfect for whisking things up really, really well. And you can put it in there. See, it's got little blades on the bottom. The key is don't lift it up out of the mixture, or you're going to be wearing whatever it is that you're mixing. And this will emulsify it a little better. You see how it's just automatically just combining that oil and vinegar, and that's it. But if you don't have one of these, you could use a whisk, would be fine. And I'm just going to take this and toss it over top of this salad. Don't do this. Reserve a little bit on the side until you're ready to serve. Let me get a little bit of tongs here to toss that through. And then I'm going to add some extra little sesame seeds because I really like those things. And I'm going to add some more sliced almonds. And there's your salad done. I'll chop up the rest of those in just a little bit. How easy is that? Now our pasta's done. Let's get that plated up. Got my pretty bowl here to serve it with. Just stir that all together and then plate it up. Oh, look at that, how pretty that looks. And it really is very good. Top that with a little bit more shredded Parmesan cheese. Alrighty, now here is our wonderful asparagus. Look how beautiful this dish is. It's got that wonderful asparagus with that browned topping on there. I would just serve a little bit of this alongside your fettuccine and sprinkle that with some almonds over top to add a little bit of crunch to it. And there you go, a wonderful, easy meal that you can cook start to finish any night of the week in under an hour. Really, you could have this done in 30, 40 minutes from start to finish, provided your chicken is cooked. So there you go. Try these recipes. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.